Siphoning energy out of the present moment. This is really important because this is basically what we all do. I really have to take a very honest look at my life and say, if I'm not living the life that I want to live, I'm doing something wrong. And what I've noticed about myself personally is that I do a lot of things, I think, pretty well as far as taking care of myself, and certain choices I've made pretty good, but I'm still not where I really want to be. So what is it that's really stopping me? And I think for myself personally, I have to find a way to change, to stop having these really negative thoughts, these almost like violent thoughts in my mind, these daydreams of things that have not happened, most likely will not happen. But my brain can easily create these narratives very quickly. And in order, if I want to live the life that I really want to live, I have to figure out how to flip that and continue to use my daydreaming as an asset, but daydream about the right things that I want to happen, right? So in this section of this chapter, he talks about siphoning energy out of the present moment. When we place our attention, have you heard this saying, energy goes where attention flows? It's so true. I want to stop for a second and just talk to you about, have you ever thought about how precious our attention is? The whole world is vying for our attention. Marketing, advertising, corporations, social media, everybody is out to get attention and to get your attention. So attention is the most precious asset that everyone is trying to acquire. And once they get your attention, they can then sell you on what they want to sell you on. They can get you to buy. They can get you to believe things. So we have to protect our minds. We have to protect our eyes, right? What we're looking at all the time, what we let in through our ears, what we let into our heart, our minds. The gatekeeper has got to be there 24/7, and we've got to be in control of the content that we are taking in, because input is most definitely output. So that's my tangent on attention, but this is so very true. So he says that if we're always thinking of the past, our energy is in the past, and we can't use that energy in two places at once, right? Our energy is in the past, therefore we don't have the energy to create in the present, which is what we need in order to change our future. And he talks about this whole concept is about, we typically tend to just focus all of our energy and attention on our outside world, on what's going on in the physical world, right? With our jobs and our kids and our bosses and our spouses, our friends, what's on the news, what's going on around the world. Everything, all of our attention is put outside of ourselves. And so his whole method is about coming in, using guided meditation to not react to the outside world, but generate high, elevated levels of emotion for extended periods of time in order to create a new reality. And we can only do that by going within to where we can control our environment and staying there for long periods of time, long enough to really start to change the memories and the biology of our bodies and the thoughts that we think, but really focus our attention and put our energy into ourselves and the life that we want to create. And that's what this whole entire book is about. We struggle to focus our attention on ourselves, on the things that we truly want, what would make us happy, instead of focusing our attention on the outside world and what is bothering us, and allowing all of our attention to go into reacting to the things that are wrong, to the things that we don't like, to our problems. And the only way to get out of that is to bring that attention back to ourselves within in this environment that we can control, get into the present moment, get out of the past, our memories and everything of the outside world, get into our present and start to consciously change the way that we feel and the way that we think through using elevated emotion for elongated periods of time. And that's how we start to create our future. Because what is creating our futures is our past. If we stay stuck in the same old thinking and the same old feeling, then our electromagnetic fields just stay the same. And they also shrink and they get smaller when we feel negative thoughts, or when we have negative thoughts and we feel negative emotions, then our electromagnetic field shrinks. So he says we must not only change our thoughts and emotions in order to change our state of being, but we must change it long enough, holding our attention on it long enough in order to change our energy fields. If our attention, our minds focus on the unknown, which is the present, then our bodies will eventually follow. So a great exercise to start to become aware of how often our minds trail off into the negative or the unwanted is this. You can just set an alarm for 1 minute and then have the notebook in front of you with something to write with. And close your eyes. And then I want you to just pick one thing that you want to focus on. And this can be one thing that you know that you want. And you're allowed to just trail off and think positive thoughts about it. Have a positive daydream or a fantasy about having this thing and already being in possession of it. Okay? Choose what that's going to be and then set your alarm, pen in hand, close your eyes. And I want you to just see how long you can maintain this positive daydream without something negative or a task, your daily list of to-dos gets in the way. And every time you have a trailing thought or a negative thought, mark it. Just make a little mark. You can make a check mark on your notebook within that 1 minute. And just see how many times you get interrupted. And then also, you can just draw a line in the middle of the piece of paper, and on one side of it, just mark when you have a trailing thought, a random thought, something you have to do that day. And then on the other side, mark when it's a negative thought. And you'll begin to see how often our brains are infiltrated with all of these thoughts that we don't really want to think. How many times we get distracted and how we really struggle with focus. And there's been so many tests. Now we know how scrolling through social media and short content is really putting a dent in our minds. It's not healthy for us. It's making us feel really scattered and putting our brains into disorder, and it's making our brains more dysfunctional. So that is something to really think about. The good news is that it is something that we can learn. Focusing is a skill. It is something that takes practice. It's not something that any of us are just naturally good at. Maybe some of us are a little better, right? But the world is just as distracting for everyone out there. We are all facing the same lights and shiny objects 24/7. Everything is vying for our attention. It's up to us to put it all away. It's up to us to shut out the noise. So he talks about mental rehearsal, and mental rehearsal is really fascinating. If you're an athlete or you were growing up, a performer of any kind, then most likely you practice this visualization, right? But what's interesting is that they found that our bodies respond as if they are really physically doing the experience. I think in the book they talk about playing the piano with a bunch of subjects who've never even played the piano before. But if we can mentally rehearse our performance or our meetings or whatever experience we want to have, if we rehearse it, then our bodies believe that is the experience that we've already had. And I think that's very interesting. It's a fascinating fact. And when you're aware of how great it works, then you can't help but ask yourself, why am I not doing this with everything? Why am I not rehearsing the day I want to have before I go out into the world and have it? When we have that really hard conversation coming up, a lot of times then we will rehearse, right? But what about the good conversations? What about how our day at work is going to be? How our relationships, how we're going to interact with certain people? If we already just prepare ourselves for the experience, then we'll get through it a lot better. And I love this fact. Mental rehearsal doesn't just change the brain. It changes the body by just thought alone. So think about how powerful that is, because that is, in essence, what we were doing all the time. Before that was a vase, or that was a shelf, or that was a weird, creepy trapdoor, whatever that leads to. Before all of this existed in the physical, it had to be a thought. We had to think about it before. I get so amazed when I see a bridge, or when I look at architecture, and I just think, wow, that was in someone's mind. Pretty amazing. My favorite section of this chapter is where he talks about sharing energy and information, because what he describes is he's talking about how atoms become other things. And I just want you to think about how human beings, since we are atoms, we are cells, we are all of these things, right? How we bond as human to human. And I want you to just listen to this comparison of how atoms bond. Atoms bond by sharing energy and information with each other through an invisible field. And that field holds energy and information. And when people come into this field and we share this energy field, then we bond together. So this invisible field of energy and information keeps these atoms connected energetically. And when two people share the same thoughts, information, and emotions, magnetism, they become bonded as well. They become bonded by an invisible field. I just picture the pull between two magnets. If you get them close enough, that force is really strong. And that's exactly what it's like to be energetically bonded to another human being. That force is really strong. It's invisible, but it can certainly be felt, and it is very real. So just as it takes energy to separate these two magnets, it takes energy for us to disconnect our focus and disconnect our attention away from the people and the problems in our lives that we've given so much energy and attention to. So we need that energy to be able to even just at first pull ourselves away from these things that we are bonded to. So there's a quote on page 49, and he asks, how much of your creative energy is tied up in guilt, hatred, resentment, lack, or fear? The truth is that you could be using all that energy to recreate a new destiny. Trying to let go of all of your negativity is tricky. This is a tricky thing, because when you focus on trying to let go of all of this negativity, or if you focus on your problems, how to get out of it, you're still giving all of your attention and your energy to your problems or to negativity. So it's better to just focus on creating a new feeling. So there's a powerful exercise of clearing energy between two people that I love to practice. And this works on people that you're very close to, but also just strangers. So I'll tell you a story. I love my gym. When I first started going there, I didn't know how to use the lockers. And I went in one day, I put my stuff up, I came out, worked out, came back, and my locker wouldn't open. And I was like, man, what's going on? And I was like, I guess it got stuck. And I was like, is this my locker? And so then I went to another one and I opened up. I was like, maybe this one's my locker. I opened it up and I was like, oh, this is my locker. And there was nothing in there. And I thought my stuff was taken. And I was just really confused and I was having a stressful day. So I'm sure I just couldn't figure it out. I couldn't put it together that maybe I just didn't open the right locker. And the woman who was working inside of the locker room, she was just having a bad day. And when she came to help me, she did not want to help me. And she was pretty rude to me. And we got through it. She opened my locker for me. I went home. I felt really stupid, but also I was upset. She was rude. And there was really no reason for it. I go to the gym every day. The woman is there. I see that she's really a nice woman. She does her job really well. She was having a bad day. And I would see her be so nice to people. And then when she would see me, I could feel that energy drop and I could see her face drop and she would ignore me or she would almost act like I had done something wrong to her. And that is a common thing. When people do you wrong, don't be surprised when they act like they are mad at you, like you have done something wrong to them. They are justifying their actions because it is so much easier to blame it on the other person than it is to apologize and be accountable for your actions. This happens a lot, and I know this has probably happened to you. But nevertheless, if I were to just feed into that and fuel that fire, it wouldn't do either of us any good, right? And I like my gym. I like being happy at the gym. There's no reason why I should let something like this just get in the way, just ruin my experience. Here's somebody who doesn't know me but doesn't like me. Here's what I did. There is a practice called Ho'oponopono, and I took this practice and I've just made it my own because what I realized is happening is that I am clearing the energy I have in between myself and another. So when we're angry at each other, picture this person in front of you. You can feel, just like two magnets, you can feel that energetic force that is heavy, it's gunky, it doesn't feel good, right? And you feel that. And you might just think that's just the feeling I have within my body when I see that person. And that's true too. But there is an energetic force. Remember this energy field that bonds two people, that bonds atoms, that creates life, that we are all made out of. So the thing I do is I just put that person in front of me and I literally physically start clearing out all the things that are in between us. The anger, the misunderstanding, and all the negativity. I'll just start to bring that up, acknowledge it, and I'll just clear it out. And then I picture that I'm replacing this energy with love and appreciation. And I have a conversation. This is all just happening mentally with just me, myself, and I, and this woman in this example. And I'm just thinking, you do a really good job and you have a really pretty smile and you make a lot of people happy around here. And I can tell that you're a kind person and you're a really hard worker. And I'm just starting to just fill this space, fill this energy with positive thoughts because my thoughts create my emotions and those are electric and magnetic. And this woman feels what I'm thinking and what I'm feeling. That is essentially what we're talking about, right? So I start to do this until I think differently about her and I feel differently about her. So notice that I have taken all of the control because I can't control this woman. I can't decide make her like me or dislike me or whatever. I could probably make her dislike me, right? But I can't control. I could kiss up to her and go out of my way to just feed into the fact that I know she doesn't like me. So let me just do what I can to make her like me. I could have done all of that. It probably still wouldn't have worked. It would have just validated her justification. That instead of her being rude to me, I deserved it. And therefore I was rude to her. So I don't worry about controlling other people. I just try to control what is controllable. And the way I think and feel about someone else is in my control. So I do that until I feel and think differently. And when I see her next time, and I see her quite often, I just hold that energy and I hold that space between us with my good thoughts and my good feelings. And I promise you, this works, because eventually I just kept doing it and the energy got clearer. And I think so she could probably just feel like, oh, there's no reason to be defensive towards her anymore. She seems like she's forgotten about it. Maybe she felt forgiven. Who knows? I just know that this works because I have literally changed the field and the energy around us, in between us. That's connecting us. That's bonding us. And what do you know? One day I'm coming out of the locker room and she has like a sneezing fit. And I have some headphones in, but I hear it. And I just turn around. I don't even realize it's her. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you okay? And she starts smiling so big. And she's laughing because she can't stop sneezing. And she's just so happy. And she's, oh, thank you so much. I'm fine. I just have a little sinuses. I think the weather changed that day. And we were just shared a laugh about it. And it was just like really cute. And she was so happy that someone checked on her. That someone just acknowledged her and was like, oh my God, you all right? Do you need something? And of course, I didn't even realize it was her until I turned around. And from that moment on, now every time she sees me, she smiles. She asks me how my day is. Things are good again. And I didn't do anything to try to change her in any way. All I did was change myself. I changed my thoughts and my feelings toward her. And so I just want to encourage you to try this, because this is something that is in our control and it's so effective. So to conclude all of this, to go a little deeper, because chapter 2 is really deep and it really, like I said, it captures the essence of his entire method. The reason he talks about using these guided meditations is because he wants you to be in control of your energy, of controlling your environment. So there's so much, like right now there's a motorcycle or some loud motorcycle passing by. I can't control that. I'm recording, but I can't control everything that happens externally. But if I go within, I can start to learn how to control, and I can generate the emotions that I want to feel instead of just reacting and having others create circumstances that I react to that cause my emotions to flare. So it's all about getting into a controlled environment. And if we're thinking about our past, we are feeling about our past. We are staying stuck into who we don't want to be if we want to change. So it's all about coming into the present, finding a way to come into the present, which in his way is guided meditation. And I'm going to warn you that the first time you hear these meditations, you're going to be like, this is strange. This is weird. He sounds weird. It's strange. The things that he is asking you to do mentally are unique, to say the least. But it works. And I will say that it won't hurt you. So if you're worried about it, if you think maybe it won't help, maybe it won't help you. But will it hurt you? And that's always the mindset that I use going into something new. Because remember, learning something new, having new experiences, those things are upgrading our brains. And that's what we need. At least that's what I need. That's what I want. So when we go into this meditative state, the goal is to try to remove our identities that we've created for the outside world from the physical, right? All these things that we want to leave behind. We have to become something new. We have to go beyond our past so that we can have new thoughts and new emotions and create new personalities, personal realities, right? So the goal is to leave all of that behind so that we can go from somebody to being nobody, so that we can take our attention away from our bodies, from our pain, our problems, our hunger. And we have to go from being someone that we know to being no one. And we have to go from putting our attention on something to placing our attention on no thing, and from being somewhere to being nowhere, and going from linear time to being in no time. And when we get there, that is the place called the eternal now, the place where we can have all of our energy in use to be creative and to create something new. We're in a place where we don't know anything about it. It's the total unknown. There is full potential for anything to be possible. And that's the place where we can create something new. And I think this is a good place to just conclude his idea. And this really just drives it home. When we stop putting our attention and energy on our outer world, we weaken the bonds that we've made with it, both emotionally and energetically. And that frees up our energy to put it towards breaking those bonds and then creating new thoughts and new emotions within our internal atmosphere. So basically what he is saying, and something simple that we can take with us and remember, is that when we are stressed and we are worried and we have a lot of anxiety or we're just feeling stuck, try to remember that we are putting all of our attention on the outside world. And if we want to change, if we want to create something new, then we have to take our attention from the outside world and bring it all in and bring it back to ourselves. And with that creative energy, we can then create something new. And all of this happens in the present moment and not the past. So I'll leave you with this quote, and I love this section is called "The Sweet Spot of the Generous Present Moment." When you are in the sweet spot of your generous present moment, your familiar past and your predictable future no longer exist. And now you are ready to create new possibilities in your life. I hope you read this book. I hope you comment and you let me know your thoughts on reading Joe Dispenza. Let me know your experiences with the meditations. I'm really enjoying them. I'm getting so much out of them. And I wish you love and light and peace and wisdom. Thanks for watching and liking and commenting and subscribing. See you soon.